Okay, well, let me go down, sit down, and get ready to watch you. Okay.
The power to laugh is it's a community ideal. To be able to put people in the room, it's talk about some of the most difficult of things, painful, hurtful things, but yet congeal an environment whereby people can see their own humanity, show compassion, and show mercy. Civil liberties attorney Clarence Darrow also said when it came to humor, if you lose the power to laugh, you lose the power to think. With that, I present the End of Racism Comedy Lecture Tour Virtual Edition.
I think racism is the reason why you never ever see any black people in tanning commercials. You laughing, but if you went to the local pharmacy, you saw a cardboard cutout of me with some suntan lotion, you'd be confused. Because you know, they don't tell you this. It affects everybody. Guess what? Racism affects white people too. But they don't tell you. Why I'm here. Welcome me here. Black people have Black History Month. I'm Muslim. Muslims have Ramadan. Latino have Latino month. Asian have. What do my white brothers and sisters have? Nothing. You don't have a Caucasian Awareness Month or Crack Appreciation Day or a Writing Day or a Moscow or Soccer Day or Rich Month or Hopefully Every Help or Pale Cards. Nothing. Put out your right hand. Extend 5 fingers. I call this the fives. It's about thinking about language. Freedom. I believe there's always 5 letters to let us know just how close we are. 5 letters. Think outside the box. Here we go. You can count on them. 5 letters. I believe we all exist, E-S-I-N-T, here on Earth, 5 letters by virtue of the fact we're all human, nature will man. Therefore, it doesn't matter whether you're black, 5 letters, white, 5 letters, Asian, 5 letters, Latino, Latina, like the older age stuff, ain't true. I'm Muslim, you know, that means I follow Islam, that's 5 letters. If you truly follow Jesus, if you're Jewish, you get Torah, 5 letters too. The point of this is, as good as the sound is always going to be hate, and it's 5 letters too. Because our power is not unity, U-N-I-T-Y, and a hater, you know how a hater is. Most of them are angry, some of them are upset, some pissed off right now because damn it, they can't S-P-E-L-L, and it's okay. Tell a hater, listen, man, if you can't spell it out, do the math. If you take things away from the 5, it gives you peace. And that peace is spelled P-E-A-C-E.
I proudly present the End of Racism Comedy Lecture Tour Virtual Edition, coming to a college near you. Hey everybody, Assalamu alaikum. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button and the notify button so you know when you're getting new episodes. And we just want to grow this project. I thank you in advance. Without further ado, let's get it rolling. The Shout Out Show.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Moss, host of SOS, the Shout Out Show. I hope everybody had a tremendous Monday on Mo Better Mondays. This Mo Better Monday is going to be a little bit more better than other Mondays. Of course, you know, we're talking, oh, wow, I see my big brother, Fahim Hamid. That's my main man right there. it's gonna be a different show today. You know, a lot of times when you do 200 episodes, because this is the 200th episode, consecutive episode, and I want to give a shout out to a whole lot of people at the beginning. If you're coming on the show for the first time, I appreciate you coming on the show. God bless you, and I want to have a great time. But I also want you to I want to acknowledge people who've been a part of the show, man, because there's a lot of folks from the community that won't get their say, they won't get their shine, if you will. So if you're coming on the show for the first time, thank you for coming. Here's the deal: we ask, if you don't mind, to please click the subscribe button, click the like button, if you don't mind. As well, brothers and sisters, if you like the show, tell somebody that you like the show. If you don't like the show, tell us why. This is a very open format, very open platform, and I want everybody to get used to that. You know, when we started this thing, and there are a lot of people in the comment section who have been, I want to say, major supporters of the Shout Out Show. And I don't mean like, hey, come on, there's never been a thing for Cash App or Venmo. We never asked for money because you were doing me a favor. You were the currency that allowed me to keep doing this. And we're gonna talk about some things. I'm gonna give some love. I'm gonna give some love to a lot of people, man. You know, I will give a shout out to Sister Ree down in Houston, Texas, doing it. And here's a brother right here, Brother Fahim Hamed. I like to say he's a big brother advisor. He has counseled me on so many things that have to do with how you expand and grow and protect your creativity. He's a creative, he's a consultant, but he's taking time. He took time on me early, several years to just sit down and let me know what the history was of our community, where we're coming from, where we're going, what the problems were, what the solutions were, what the hopes and dreams are. And that, brothers and sisters, has contributed to this process of the Shout Out Show. Not just the Shout Out Show, but 200 episodes of the Shout Out Show. So big Fahim, beloved, I appreciate you, and peace and blessings to you and your family. Sister Sultana is this consulting producer of the Shout Out Show. Now, a lot of you brothers don't know this. I say consultant producer, but that term doesn't fully explain what she does. If you get a flyer from Sister Sultana, from the Shout Out Show, that's Sister Sultana. If you get a flyer about a guest, that's Sister Sultana. Arranging guests is Sister Sultana. Making sure that we have things. The funny part is, if she wasn't on top of this thing, I would think that this would be the 190th show. She's like, no, it's 200 shows. But that just tells you how God works when you're working, man, when you're grinding. And to bring a term that my big brother, Reginald Kitchen, may Allah be pleased with, used to say. He used to say that Allah never wastes the work of a righteous worker. Allah never wastes the work of a righteous worker. And the impetus was righteous work, which meant that you had to have the right intention and the right temperament to do certain things. And this platform is really easy to do it because I have so many people with the same temperament. Like, I've never had a negative comment on the show from people on the show. Nothing but love and encouragement and support. And I think that's a major thing. And Sister Sultana has been at the beginning. She'll tell you the story one day. Maybe when we get to 500 episodes, Sultana, you can tell them about the story. And we started during the first day of Ramadan. And the idea was we're going to do maybe a couple of shows, one a week. Then we got to going, and I was like, we're going to do 30 for 30. We're going to do every day within Ramadan. And we did that, and we got to the end, and let's just keep going. And we got to 100 episodes, and then all of a sudden it was 200 episodes, and it started to grow. When I say started to grow, it meant that, that framework was there, but that framework is not my framework. That framework that's a community framework from where I call myself home. And my Muslim community and my direct family, they laid that groundwork whereby you're not afraid to work hard. Let me give a shout out to Sister Ike. Sister Ike comes all the way over from Indonesia. Hope your daughter had a happy birthday yesterday. I think she's 15 or 16, but thank you so much, because Sister Ike she's working. She's just getting up, as a matter of fact. She just got off the prayer mat and spending time with the Shout Out Show. So thanks to you, Sister Ike. Sister Naima, what can I say? I appreciate it. Thank you so much. The 200 show is interesting because in 200 shows, I've seen a lot of landscape change in the United States. And I don't mean just the presidential landscape. I mean, we talked about certain things going back. Um, we started out in the midst of a COVID crisis. I mean, we're still in the COVID crisis, but I'll be honest, I thought 5 months later that we would have made some kind of headway, but it doesn't happen. It just goes to show you I'm not in charge. I'm not in charge. Um, you know, God's in charge. So whenever that's supposed to be, it's going to be. Brother Althoff comes all the way from Toronto, and I have a very fine relationship, great relationship with Toronto, Canada as a whole. But I appreciate Brother Althoff coming on, because he's reached out to me off the show, which meant a lot. And we just kind of, connect. Althoff, you can reach out to me anytime. Anybody that's in the show today can reach out to me anytime. In fact, I'm going to start putting up. So, Tana, can you put up the Permissible Laughter email if people need to contact us directly, please, if you don't mind? And I'm going to flash that up. So let me tell you guys about 200 episodes. 200 episodes does not come out of the blue. You have to have support. You have to have guidance. Ironically, I'm doing my 200th episode while caring for my mother. My mother is asleep right now. Miss Eleanor, who's a angel, comes in to watch my mother. She worked all day. God bless her soul. But it comes from that kind of teamwork. You ever heard that term, teamwork makes the dream work? I believe in that. I believe that teamwork does make the dream work. And ironically, it's become a little bit more of a situation whereby I've been assessing. Let me adjust this camera just a little bit. I begin to assess, what is the functionality of teamwork right now? How do we go about putting together teams? And I mean teams to get things done. I don't mean teams for competition, teams for divisiveness, because I'm not that kind of person. And I don't believe America in its core is really that. There's a rumor going around now about the African American voter. And what is the dynamic of the African American voter? The dynamic of the African American voter, the original one is that we could be suppressed, we could be disenfranchised. Now there's a whole theorem being developed about, how do we derail that? How do we make this thing whereby the African American voter is unsure about themselves, unsure about their vote, unsure about the aspect of elections? Ironically, that's what a lot of people who didn't vote for Joe Biden are going through right now. That's not the point today. The point is I really wanted to take some time to celebrate you. Celebrate all the people that come on the Shout Out Show. So let me throw this up, brothers and sisters. That is the official email for Permissible Laughter. And that gets direct to me, direct to Sultana. If you have anything you need to ask, email us at that email us at that contact. Any ideas you have for the show, email us at that contact. If you have some people you think will be a great guest, email us. I say concepts, subject matters. We might even do a Shout Out Show stand-up routine. We don't, we're unlimited, brothers and sisters. But I want to come to the scope of this 200 episodes. I hear it all the time that the world has changed. Well, that's redundant. The world is always changing. It's just that you may not recognize it. Every one of us, we get a little older, get a little slower, get a little broker, get a little greater, a little grayer, a little thicker. The point of the matter is being able to frame what that looks like. And I'm going to give a big shout out to Brother Benjamin Abdul Haq, Master Muhammad in the house. What's going on, beloved? Good to see you. My point is, and I was reading an article by Muhammad Fraser Rahim, and he was addressing the situation over in France about how Muslims are being treated over in France, and he gave them a model, and the model that he gave them was the Black Muslim community. He gave them the model of the Black Muslim community, And I love the idea because we need to be a lot more vocal. I remember I played that thing, that piece about mom's maybe talking about, well, you got a mouth. And what she said was, when she said when you got a mouth, what she was saying and reinforcing to me is that we have to be more vocal about our victories. We have to be more vocal about our legacy. And I think if we can do that, I think we can have a much bigger platform. Because there's platforms that have been out there. Many of you saw the interview we did, Sister Aisha Mustafa from Muslim Journal. And it shouldn't be a thing that they're trying to raise money on launch good. We're much bigger, diverse, talented, and we're well-sourced community, and we need to be helping her. They need to have a Muslim Journal magazine once a week, and we check that out. We build our media presence and things like that. Because what I learned, brothers and sisters, about 200 episodes, is I refreshed myself a little bit on Malcolm X's autobiography. And I marveled at the type of worker that he was. When I say marveled at the type of worker that he was, man, he was tireless. Because in the end, you don't know when the end is going to be. And it should be incumbent, all of us as believers, Muslims, Christians, Jews, if we know the end is we're going to go meet our Lord, then we shouldn't have any fear in working hard. We should have fear in not working hard. We should have fear in not giving a full percentage. We should have fear in not asking for our full portion here on this earth. And that becomes the nature. That becomes something that's an outgrowth. Because I see people on here, man. All right, thank you, brother Ben. But I look at things. I look at things, and I can be honest, man. At the beginning of the Shout Out Show, when we started show number 1, I was legitimately worried about our white brothers and sisters. Because history has shown, and this may be a little off topic, but history has shown that as a norm, when pressure is applied to the non-blacks, the non-Latinos, the non-Native Americans, to our white brothers and sisters, that pressure is deafening and complete. It is interesting that you can give somebody their history. We're in the middle of a situation right now. An election has occurred. And I sat and watched a clip on CNN where people are at the Capitol, I think it's Michigan, open carry, arguing about Trump and the election was stolen. And, and it ironically, it makes me feel a little like, it reminds me a little bit of, I said Nazi Germany, the brown shirts, if you will, the beginning of the SOS. And the feeling is that we all, for lack of a better word, can become targets. That when people don't resolve crises within themselves, they tend to project them on other people. I'm going to give a shout out. What's going on, Brother Derek? Good to see you, my brother. All right, Ben, I'll see you in a minute. Were you going to the bathroom, boy? Ben's like, I'll be right back. It's a show, Ben. We'll be here. But my thing that I've learned about Shout Out Show is that I have to be, and I want to say the people that have come on the show, from Reed to Satana on down, Naima, everybody. Sister Rabina is here. Oh, she might be asleep. It was interesting because people brought me ideas in the chat room. They commented in a certain way that reminded me that for all the fun we have, for all the topics we talked about, there's still that thing, that underlying theme is that we got to be responsible. Like we have to be responsible. Like a brother texted me about Dave Chappelle. And a lot of people text me about Dave Chappelle. And the guy said, oh, is this and that? And I'm like, well, if you really watch what he was saying, it's not genius. He doesn't claim himself to be a genius. He claims himself to be a warner. He gave a very clear warning And warners in a tradition, in a prophetic tradition, uh, warn you what's to come. It's either good tidings or warning. And he gave a warning. And his most important thing is, I've been wearing a mask so long, I can't say, he basically said, I can't say what I want to say unless there's a joke attached to it. So let me go right there by saying this format has been extremely important for me. And I'm going to say to everybody on it, extremely important for me because I was able to say what was on my mind, say what was on my heart, and it didn't have to have a joke attached to it, a funny line, a punchline, things like that. And it's, not that they weren't there, brothers and sisters, not that they weren't there. I mean, and there's a lot of comedy to be put out there. But that comedy right now comes from pain. It's not necessarily coming from creativity. It comes from an absolute destitute feeling of loss, confusion. And I think we all, as a community, a shout out show community, a family, if you will, I think maybe we owe it all to ourselves to understand what's going on in the world today and rededicate ourselves. I'll start with me. Rededicate ourselves to being righteous workers. Because when you're a righteous worker, you know what? You never see 200 episodes coming. You see 200 opportunities to make a situation better. I have 2 opportunities to have people on the show that remind me, you got to keep working. And even despite everything that's happening, there's times I've been sick, there's times when I had tons of homework, times I've been traveling, times I was just tired, times I almost overslept and missed the show. There was something inside that reminded me that in a small way, this was important, not just to me, but for the people that come on the show. And what I found was the shout out show has evolved as an amana, a trust, meaning that maybe if I don't do 300 episodes, I'm going to make sure that the show keeps going. I'm going to make sure that my people in the comments section are still entertained, engaged, and respected. Let me say that: entertained, engaged, and respected, and listened to. You know, I looked at Donald Trump today. He fired Secretary of Defense, but then he basically went to his human resources person and said, "Here's a decree: anybody who's caught looking for another job is automatically fired." And I said, this white man has lost his mind. Of course, people are going to look for a job. Hell, you out of a job. But nobody even said that to him. They're letting them live in this space. And I really I could easily make jokes about it, but it's toxic. And I learned, my mother told me, when people are really, really hurting, you don't make jokes about them. She said, if you believe what I believe, you look to figure out how you can soothe that pain, because there is something to be said about hurt people. What do hurt people do? They hurt people. And we've had this thing as a norm. Like I'm going to go out and do end racism shows at colleges this year, but it's not the same show. It's not the same show. The constituency is not the same. Whiteness has taken a beating because white privilege is all. The danger of white privilege, brothers and sisters, is when white people find out that all of them ain't got it. It creates animosity. It creates animosity. But in white privilege, you can't yell at the king. You can't yell at the queen. You either yell at the people who look just like you, or it's sanctioned that you can yell at the people who don't look like you, and you can disparage the people that don't look like you. And from this framework, we actually had a presidency that worked that way. We had a presidency that worked that way. And some people say you got what you deserve. Yeah, you did. We did get whatever we deserve. Because there's an election process that goes on. There's an election process that goes on. And that election process says, hey, you do have a choice. And I hope, brothers and sisters, down in Georgia, you rally the troops. Like you really, really rally the troops. Big shout out to Stacey Abrams. And make people realize and remember that we do have a choice. And that choice has power. That choice is opportunity. We're not gonna win every visit. You're not gonna win every you're not gonna win every battle.
I'm leaving.
All right.
See you in the morning.
Take care, Miss Eleanor. Miss Eleanor is leading everybody.
10:37.
Take care, Miss Eleanor. Say bye.
Thank you.
Miss Eleanor is leaving. Yes, Sister Satan Ali. When Ben Carson tested for the virus, along with it's like 3 people have tested for the virus again. What's interesting is people, there's no empathy. We just go. You hear what I'm saying? It's just no empathy. People just go, yeah, you got the virus. Because so many people have gotten the virus. It's a surprise when people of privilege get the virus. And that's the only reason we're talking about Ben Carson. He's a housing secretary. I'm like, dude, you a doctor. What you know about housing? See how that works out? See how Ben can be the Surgeon General? What does he know about housing? I mean, really, what does he know about housing? But in that world, it doesn't matter. What you know is who you know. So let me say this about where I thought we would be after 200 episodes. I thought there would have been a transfer of power. I think the month after Ramadan, I didn't think Trump was going to be president. And let me tell you why. I didn't think he was going to be president because there was a little space called George Floyd that woke folks up to the fact that there's a large population in this country that just doesn't care. They don't care about Black people. They don't care about Latino people. They don't care about Native Americans. They just don't care. And all of a sudden they had a platform. And the problem with any other platform is it only lasts for a while, brothers and sisters. Let me pause. Do you hear any more protests for George Floyd? Anybody? Any protests for George Floyd? Do you hear Breonna Taylor? I ain't heard nothing from Breonna Taylor. The reason why you're hearing things is because we're predictable. And those folks, they waited out. See, Donald Trump, if you're a sports fan, this is going to make sense to you. White privilege is insidious, but it's smart. Because they know that the people that they trick on, the people that they oppress, they've learned how to run out the clock. They learn how to run out the clock. I was talking to a friend of mine that said that if Martin Luther King was not assassinated, Malcolm X wasn't assassinated, Medgar Evers wasn't, white supremacy in America, even in the 60s, would have run out the clock. Meaning, brothers and sisters, they will wait for our leaders to get old and ineffective, and then the next generation don't want to respect them. Sort of like Black Lives Matter, to be honest. They don't want to respect the older generation that came before them. And then the new platform is a lot easier to be manipulated. It's adaptable and malleable. And so you have in this space, my knock with Black Lives Matter was that I had a lot of knocks, okay? But it had to do with the intentionality of we're not going to look at the importance and the relevance of Black political movements, power movements before us. And I thought that was interesting because there was a lot of things tied into that. Black men were not valued. The idea of Black family was not valued. It was a push for, and you've heard me say it before, it was a push for LGBTQ referendums, but using Black skin. My whole thing was do your thing, but leave Black folk alone. So let me expand. This whole idea of running out the clock is what they're trying to do now. We celebrate way too early, brothers and sisters. We celebrate at point A, knowing that you still got to go to point Z. And in America, we've gotten a reputation that people think we can only do A, B, C, D, but we won't get to Z. We don't know what Z looks like. We don't have the intestinal fortitude to get there. And I'm saying this, brothers and sisters. I'm gonna give my sister shout like treasure his own welfare. Okay, all right. Can you explain that one to me a little bit more, Sister Satana? I appreciate it. But we, brothers and sisters, have to become adept, and Brother Ben Hock will agree with me here, I think. You got to become adept to playing the long game. The long game. You have to trust in a situation, put your trust in the situation on that, playing the long game, holding tight in a long game strategy will eventually get you what you want. And the people who are obstacles, barriers, will move out of your way because you're playing the long game with them. Can you continue? See, like, look at the protest. Now, there was a protest almost every day about George Floyd, but the police and the government and politicians knew that the long game, it's not going to go that long. They can't go the full yard. And we have to get ready. Great analogy, Brother Ben. We have to be suited and booted to do the 12-round fight. We getting happy because we landed a punch in the 3rd round, but it's a 12-round fight. And I've never been a fighter. I mean, I never did fight. Brother Ben was a boxer. But what I know is you train 6 months for you'll train 6 months for 12 rounds. You'll train hard because the nuances of being in a fight with emotion and the amount of energy you expend, if you're not in great condition, you'll get knocked out or you run out of gas. So my point is, I don't need us to be celebrating when the reality is, if we're not orientated a certain way, we can run out of gas. 200 shows is not about Preacher Moss. 200 shows is about the study of, what am I talking about? The long game. The long game. Muhammad Ali had a long game. Mike Tyson has a long game. Magic Johnson had a long game. Jordan, long game. John Lewis, in his death, had a long game. C.T. Vivian, long game. And we have to believe, in a very simple matter, that good has to extend longer and greater with more intensity than the bad things. See, 4 years, I didn't worry about Trump 4 years. I mean, we struggle with more things longer than 4 years. But it's interesting to watch how many people can't play the long game now. How many people crack under pressure because they can't play the long game. They don't understand that. I remember, man, Worthy Muhammad. Good, bad, in between, whatever you think about him. And I've said this to him, to his face, that I appreciated him showing us how to play the long game. What does that mean? It means strategically, we're able to move the finish line wherever we want to. In the past, we've been a very, very linear people. I don't know if that makes sense. We've been a real linear people. We've been predictable. And the reason why we're predictable is because you had laws that framed your behavior, framed your outcomes. And then in the 60s, you had a movement, if you will, whereby people all of a sudden understood the complexity of the law, but also the unconstitutional aspects of the law, and the laws had to change. Big up to, of course, big up Thurgood Marshall and folks like that. But then it came a thing where the long game became a little bit of fool's gold game. And the idea is that we think we're getting equal and we start playing the game. We shorten it up for lack of a better word. Let me go back to Sister Satana because I asked her to give me a little explanation. How does someone know how to manage my money and can't figure out how to support themselves without being on welfare? Wow. How does someone know how to manage my money and can't figure out how to support themselves without being on welfare? Ooh, um, that's that's America. I'm sorry, sister, that's wrong, but that's America. They can manage your life when they can't manage their own lives. This is exactly what we're talking about. You know what's going to happen? I believe once this whole thing with Trump dies down about 9 months, 7 months, you're going to have a referendum on damn near white reparations. Like white people are going to want reparations from the government for the pain and suffering they suffered through COVID and the economy and all of that. I mean, it happens anyway. I mean, money is given to farmers for not producing anything and subsidies. That's what they call it, subsidies and pork and stuff like that. I'm here to tell you. I said this is amazing because we're having this conversation, and I don't think that people really understand the nuances. Yes, months of training for 48 minutes in the ring. You are 100% right, brother. But how do we get to? And I've talked about some aspects for myself about the long game. We have people talking about defund the police, and it's not going to happen. Okay, just stop. Defunding the police is not going to happen because the police get their money out of a particular bucket of revenue that we're not privy to. It's not your taxes that pay their salaries. It's their ability to mainframe and do asset management. Like black people, you have to look at yourself in America as assets, meaning people have done a valuation of you. In some regards, when you haven't done a valuation of yourself. Okay, Sister Satana, yeah, you're talking about Ben Carson. You know, the interesting thing about Ben Carson, and my dad gives me all this information. My dad used to work at NIH. As a surgeon, he was washed up. He had problems with his hands. He couldn't do surgery anymore. So he's ill-equipped to do anything in terms of the medical business. How crazy is that? And then he winds up doing housing. So I mean, he comes from that, but I think he's a really complex guy. Because I never ever felt like Ben Carson was happy. Even when he ran, I didn't think he was happy. That's right. A dentist can't do a hysterectomy. You can't be a rapper if you stutter. You can't be a rapper if you stutter. You can't be a chef if you can't buy food. It's a whole lot of things, Sister Donna. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop. But what I am gonna end on in talking about this whole thing about this 200 episode reflection, and I hope maybe by next year Ramadan we'll have another 200 episodes. Along the best. But I'm going to challenge all of us, beginning with myself, to be able to have and orient ourselves to look at the long game. The politics right now is not the politics of the day. It's the politics being set up for the next 2-3 years. While people yell and scream about Donald Trump, this, that, he was bad character, all of that, he still managed to appoint Supreme Court justices and over 200 conservative justices to federal benches that will definitely maintain conservative views in terms of courts. And those laws frame everything from where we can live, how much money you make, our control on education, and our children. Those laws set up our children in some regards to potentially fail. So the long game I talked about is one, instead of turning out another generation of athletes in entertainers and all of that. Let's set up a fund that deals with the long game. Let's set up a fund to nurture, motivate, and recruit young black minds, young Muslim black minds, young Latino minds to learn constitutional law early. Not in college after you graduate. We're going to teach it to you early. We're going to lay it out that these laws affect your life and build a platform for these young minds, creative minds, to build a strategy to deal with the long term. Because I'm looking at it. See, long term strategy. You're talking about what, 2050? The United 2050, the general population, most of the population is going to be people of color. Well, doggone it. That's 2050. You got 30 years. You know how many kids we could turn out right now? That could be federal judges. That could be a Supreme Court judge. Because I looked at the Supreme Court. A couple of them ain't gonna make it. I give them, I give them 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I mean, a couple of them, one happy meal away from a stroke. So I'm like, hey, you better hang on in there. But I digress. I'm gonna say to everybody that's on here, not just not just for the community, do it in your own lives. Do it in your own lives. What's a short game in your own lives? I mean, many of you know that I do stand up, but I can be honest with you. I haven't touched a live microphone on the stage in over, I'm going into 9 months. Brothers and sisters, 9 months. And the only reason why, I'm not at the expressway trying to wash the windows is my mom and my dad sat me down a long time, taught me about the long, you know what I'm saying? The long game. They say I'm not sending you to go to school. I'm sending you to go to school so when it's time for your children to go to school, I've given you a model that's much easier than what I did. I'm showing you how to make money under the most adverse situations so that you can be an entrepreneur and you can name your price. And the idea about value, the long game on value is really, really important. And we have to get back to not telling anybody all our damn business. Don't tell everybody when you made $100, $200, $300. Shut the hell up. Grow that money. You know what? Because if you're quiet, you could take $200, $300 and turn it to $1,000. Don't be so quick to give up information. And the only reason these days in a long game, only reason you give up information is to get information, more valuable information that allows you to do your process, expand your process for yourself, your community, and your family. That's it. So, I've talked about the long game. I'm happy to say, this is Sultana will hopefully agree with me. The Shadow Show is part of a long game. Not so much of 200 episodes. That's by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it's a long game that we can sit here on this platform. We could talk. We could share ideas. And that's what I wanted to be. So a couple of things are going to be happening. I'm going to go back to a couple courses, a couple shows on creativity, but we're going to talk about business creativity. I need you guys to start talking about how we make money and grow revenue in our communities. Sister Sultana works with me teaching IT. We want to see how many of you might want to learn IT, Salesforce Administrator. I could teach you up to a point. We can do it. I believe we can do it. I'm teaching a couple people, but I'm saying we can do it because that's the long game. I'm going to teach my community about IT, not because I'm teaching you about IT, but we're not, for whatever reason, we're not exposed to those opportunities. I had somebody expose me, and it's my job in the long game to make sure you guys get that information. So we're going to even be looking at that in the future. Of course, I taught comedy and comedy writing. That was another aspect of how you grow revenue, which the long game is not that you learn how to write jokes. The long game is that you learn how to specifically write targeted information that you can sell and you can package. So, listen, I'm going to get out of here, everybody. It's been a wonderful show. Thank you so much for tuning in for show number 200. I appreciate you. And I hope to see you guys soon. May Allah continue to bless you and guide you. Oh, let me give a shout out to my main man, part of my long game, Doug Robinson, sound man extraordinaire out there in Houston, Texas. What's up, Doug? Thanks for coming on. So, everybody, I want everybody to have an amazing day. God bless you. And hopefully, if it's meant to be, I'll see you tomorrow, inshallah. If not, have an incredible day. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Just a word, if you want your shout outs, I do shout outs, even though I sign off. I try and make sure everybody gets their shout out. All right. Take care, everybody. Assalamu alaikum.
Hey everybody, this is your brother Preacher Moss. Listen, I hope that you enjoyed your shout out show experience. We'll be back with the next show, the next shout out show. A simple ask before you go, please help your brother out. Click that subscribe button, click that notify button, and I'll see you again on this side of the microphone. You probably wonder what that smell is. That's me. I smell good. And the reason I smell good is because I use oils from Tarif Altar. So I'm not saying you can't smell good. I'm not even saying you stink. I'm saying you have the opportunity to smell exquisite. Check out tarifatar.com for some of the best oils and scents in town.